And it's been nearly a year since a missing 13-year-old girl turned up dead in the trunk of one of music's fastest rising stars. Well, now prosecutors have spent 4 full days revealing new evidence in the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez and why they say David wanted her dead. The romantic homicide singer allegedly met Celeste when she was only 11 years old, eventually leading to ongoing sexual abuse. And perhaps the biggest bombshell revealed just yesterday: text messages shown in court revealing she was pregnant in 2024 and had an abortion. David confirmed in the texts the baby was his. Now, in the preliminary hearing, prosecutors painted a picture of an up-and-coming singer killing to protect his career, fearing he'd lose his fame and fortune when Celeste threatened to expose the relationship. The teen's dismembered body was found inside David's impounded Tesla back in September, along with maggots and nearly a dozen air fresheners. The deputy medical examiner for LA County said on the stand he could smell the body stench before even entering the autopsy room. Shocking details, but is it enough for this to go to trial? For more, I'm now joined by Mark Reichel, trial attorney and former prosecutor. Mark, it's always good to see you. Welcome back. I was following this case all week long. It's just so disturbing. We finally had the medical examiner say, defense attorney, excuse me, Mark. The medical examiner said on Friday that he believes the cause of death was homicide from multiple penetrating injuries. How vital is that going to be if this case goes to trial? And I believe it probably is from our conversations and what you've taught me.
Yeah, I think it's going to, well, this case is going to go to trial. A prelim is really just a screening device. It's the lowest level of evidence. Hearsay is allowed. A lot of things are allowed in. And the judge needs to find 2 things. One, a crime was committed and the person charged is the one who committed it. But I think what we're getting at here is, to be honest with you, is what comes out with these text messages are really interesting. Here's why: consciousness of guilt. If I was prosecuting, one of the things I would tell the jury is, this man was interviewed in February of 24 by law enforcement when her parents called in and said, we can't find her. This is before the murder, obviously. But he says, I barely know her. I met her one time. Well, that's a lie. In February of 24, he knows that in January of 24, they'd already had an abortion together. And he said, I only met her once in November of 2023. Well, that's just not true. They've been together for a long time before that. All the evidence shows it. What they're going to say, if you ask me, is, boy, he sure knew that he had no business being around here. The cops showed up. They're wearing a badge. They ask about her, and he says, I barely know her. And this is long before this happened, a year before this happened. So, you know, that's really going to be bad if you ask me, for the defense.
There's also that question of the initial cause of death, wounds versus dismemberment. Even the examiner said he wasn't sure whether wounds were from a stabbing or from a gunshot. How will that play into the case here?
I think the jury's going to get past that, and I think they're going to say, look, they're going to, honestly, I think the experts are going to, at trial, say, look, there's a cause of death, we know that, and the most likely cause of death is all they need to determine. Not the exact cause of death, the most likely cause of death, and then the perpetrator. They're going to talk about the motive and the evidence that corroborates, that links it. You know, the defense is obviously going to do the very best they can to say, look, there's no evidence he's the murderer. You may be able to convict him of disposing of the body, denigrating the body, mutilating the body, but there's no proof he's the one that did the murder. That's going to be circumstantial evidence.
Interesting. So the motive the prosecution is at least painting appears to surround the age difference between David and Celeste. There was video. It was played in the courtroom. It showed David telling deputies that she told him he was 18. Others told him she was 13. How significant is that if the defense argued he misunderstood her age? He simply believed she was legal.
They'd better not try that. That would be the most dishonest defense possible, and the jury would be enraged by that. They need to acknowledge, okay, that what he did was horribly wrong in this relationship, and then say, however, he didn't kill her. And I would point out that, you know, some of these things like, who would kill this person after they sent text messages in an argument? No one would be that, you know, ignorant to order an Uber to bring you to your house, stuff like that, and say, look, it looks like it, but that's not enough to convict beyond a reasonable doubt.
I have to bring up some of his graphic lyrics, David's graphic lyrics, that seem to mirror this murder. His song, Romantic Homicide, and just for our viewers, that really is the title of his song, said this, quote, in the back of my mind, I killed you and I didn't even regret it, end quote. End quote. Do you think the prosecution will use his music in the hearing or in the possible trial?
I think they're going to, if you ask me, I think they're going to use in the trial to show this is how, you know, if the defense says the manner in which this is alleged to have happened, where he sends Uber to pick her up, which leaves a record, text messages with her that he's so angry beforehand that no one would murder someone after that because the link is right back to him. And I think the prosecution will play this music to say, look, that's how dumb he is. He'd even write a song about it.
Oof. All right, we'll see how this plays out. There's another case I want to ask you about. It's the Ohio House of Horrors. The father is facing 16 felony charges of child endangerment. He's now asking the court for a mental competency evaluation. Can you walk us through what happens next, Mark, what this means for the case, and could he ultimately get off?
No, so it's actually called competency school. Those of us that are in the business almost 40 years from me, we call it competency school. They send him to a mental institution where they literally get they diagnose him, see what can bring them back the most mentally stable, and they go through about 4 things with them. What is the function of the jury? And if they don't understand it, they explain it over and over and over. What's the function of the judge? Over and over, they explain it to him. What's your role to help your attorneys? You understand your attorneys want to help you. You know, what would be the evidence to help you? So they go through that stuff, and eventually it gets to the point where they think the person is competent to at least understand what's going on in the courtroom and assist their lawyers. Once they can do that, they're coming back to court to stand trial. That'll probably happen in this case, if you ask me. It's something sometimes lawyers ethically do to make sure they're covering all bases, that my client is, make sure my client is competent to stand this trial.
And I'm assuming time spent in the mental institute varies on the case, on the person.
Yeah, I've got somebody, to be honest with you, that's been 4 years now. And I just don't know if he's ever going to come back to competency, but they're trying. So, yeah, There's no time limit on it. Usually takes less than a year.
All right, defense attorney Mark Reichel, I always enjoy and appreciate our conversations. I hope to see you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you.